Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, October 10th. Can I get a motion for our agenda to be approved, please?
So,
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any public comment on the overall agenda and its lineup? All right, if not, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's,
yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. Move on to our consent agenda.
Move for approval, Madam Chair.
Second?
Got a motion from Schmidt, second by Aaron's. Any items to be removed from the consent agenda? All right, if not, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes, motion carries. We'll move on to regular business. We've got a second reading and public hearing.
Second reading for an ordinance of Lincoln County, South Dakota, amending the revised zoning ordinance for Lincoln County by rezoning Tract 2, Slacks Edition, North 1/2, Northeast 1/4, Section 9, Township 99 North, Range 49 West, Dayton Township from the A1 Agricultural District to the RR Rural Residential District. The Planning Commission recommends denial 5-0.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Toby Brown, representing County Planning. As was just noted, this is an application to change the zone of approximately 30.1 acre parcel from the A1 Agricultural District to the RR Rural Residential District. This property is located at the intersection of 274th and 479th. As noted, this is in Dayton Township, and both of those roads are township roads. Subject property is approximately 1.7 miles east of the city of Harrisburg. Comprehensive plan, as you can see, shows this property as agricultural area. So no proposed rezone to rural residential according to the future land use map. Subject property is currently used for agricultural purposes. The property was recently purchased by the applicant, and with that purchase is one building eligibility that was assigned to the subject parcel. As you can also see, there is no adjoining or adjacent land that is like zoned to the proposed rezone area. Applicant did submit a concept plan with the application identifying that with the rezone to rural residential, they would utilize additional building eligibilities on the property. As again was noted in the staff analysis, future land use map identifies this as agricultural area, as well as on August 3rd, 1995, the County Board of Commissioners adopted a policy that restricted residential development to 1 per quarter in the agricultural area. As was also noted, the Planning Commission did recommend denial unanimously 5-0. There was testimony at the public hearing, at the Planning Commission's public hearing from Dayton Township, and those was in opposition to the proposed application. With that, Madam Chair, the applicant is in attendance this morning to answer any questions that you or the board might have.
All right, does the applicant want to come up and give testimony today? Yes, please. Go ahead, come on up. Just state your name and address, and then go ahead with your testimony.
My name is, or good morning, my name is Kara Bush, and I live at 1818 South Blauvelt Avenue. First off, Toby, thank you for your help in all of this. We greatly appreciate it. I am the K in KTM. My brother is Troy, and his wife is Megan, and they make up the remainders. I am here representing as a landowner, but I also have 10 years of experience working at a civil engineering firm in Sioux Falls. Troy, Megan, and I bought this land with the intention of both of us being able to build our forever homes there. We are not big-time developers, nor are we trying to make a big profit off of this land. We're simply trying to kind of build a neighborhood that we are proud to call home. A quick overview of this site can be seen here. It's kind of large. Yeah, Toby, how would you like make that a little bigger? Sorry. I don't know where that is. Oh,
Right
there,
there.
okay.
Yep, there you go.
Thank you. Yeah, so that's like a quick overview of the site. It's a little bit more detailed than the one that we kind of previously gave you guys. As you can see, there's wetlands kind of running through there. We are proposing 6 lots, but Lot 6, which is that kind of L1 on the northeast up there, will act as like a permanent green space and kind of give privacy to us and the neighbors on the northeast. So we would only be using 5 single-family lots. As far as serviceability goes, we would be utilizing on-site sanitary sewer systems, meaning septic tanks. We shared this with Lincoln County Rural Water, and they said that they can support or, have the capacity to serve these 5 individual single-family lots. We also met with the city of Harrisburg, and they did not really have any objections to this subdivision. They did, however, want us to provide like a drainage easement over this existing kind of wetlands that work through there. Those were something that we kind of loved when we purchased the land, so that's obviously something we want to protect. When we talked to the city, we kind of mentioned that we might want to build a pond out there, and they said that might be a good opportunity to kind of use that pond as storage for fire protection. We also discussed a pre-annexation agreement with the city of Harrisburg. Harrisburg's growing, so that absolutely makes sense for us to do. In our talks and correspondence with Dayton Township, they basically have requested a Hall Road agreement, which is essentially like during the construction of this property, if we do any damage to that half a mile along that 274 or on the east, we would be expected to bring it back to its pre-construction conditions, which absolutely makes sense to us. And again, if we're approved here today, we would work towards getting that kind of finalized with them. In regards to drainage, this area does drain to 9 Mile Creek, which I know is a big deal. Because of my engineering background, I know how imperative it is not to discharge at a rate that is higher than single family. So yeah, we want to handle that responsibly, and we'll absolutely make sure that we don't negatively affect anything downstream. As you know, this kind of has joint jurisdiction, so I looked through the City of Harrisburg's comprehensive plan, and City of Harrisburg has like a comprehensive plan for 25 years, from 2019 to 2044, and they're kind of expecting the City of Harrisburg to grow by like 3.5 miles kind of outward. We're that 1.7 miles away. We're that red kind of tall polygon right there. As you can see, we fall within their residential area or their future use residential area. Yep, and this last figure is just kind of like an overview of kind of what's going on all around us. We're again that red polygon. To the north of us by like half mile, there's residential uses, like roughly 40 of them, and then all around kind of Lake Alvin, there's also residential uses. This was just kind of more as kind of showing you that we're far from being the only residential use out there, and yeah, that's kind of, that's essentially our plan for this land. Again, we're kind of looking to create a neighborhood that we're proud of, and we are, can call it our home. Yeah, thank you guys all for listening. I appreciate it, and if you have any questions, I can answer them.
Anybody have any questions for the applicant? All right, if not, anyone here to speak in favor of the proposal other than the applicant? All right, anybody here to speak against it? All right, thank you for your testimony. So I'm going to close testimony. Any discussion amongst the commission?
Commissioner Poppins? What was the primary objection that the Planning and Zoning Board had against this rezone?
Doesn't fall within our comp plan and the ideals of what our objectives are in the rural areas. It's not contiguous, not hard surface roads. The land it was purchased only had one eligibility. we've looked at many of these requests and have denied them. So it falls under the same kind of criteria as what we have on the other properties that fall under those, that this falls under similar criteria for, so.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Commissioner Poppins,
Yes.
was there any discussion about revising or changing this process in the comprehensive plan moving forward?
The discussion of the new comprehensive plan was not discussed for this application. If the board chooses to revamp in the comprehensive plan to readdress that, I think that would be different guidelines for a lot of property in Lincoln County, so.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Commissioner Gibbon, did you have anything you wanted to say or ask?
No.
Thank you. All right, if there's no further discussion, I would consider a motion.
Madam Chair, I'll offer a motion to approve, but I will not be supporting the motion, just for clarity.
All right, I've got a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
I've got a motion and a second to approve. Any,
The motion is to approve planning and zoning, correct?
No,
Or approve the rezone?
to approve the rezone.
Oh, okay.
so I've got a motion to approve the rezone. Kristen, will you go ahead and call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's,
No.
Commissioner Gibbon,
No.
Commissioner Poppins,
No.
Commissioner Schmidt,
No.
Commissioner Landine.
No, thank you. And I'll just say it's just probably a few years too early, but I'm sure it won't be, long before that grows and does become a part of Harrisburg. We just, spot zoning is what we call it, and I'm sure you probably heard that at the planning meeting. So I think that's the main reason for the denial today, but thank you. All right, we'll move on to the next item on our agenda. Good morning, Tracy.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tracy Humphrey, HR Director. I'm going to actually hand it over to our broker for Brown & Brown, Sean Arnett, and he's going to review our options for the 2024 employee benefits.
Yep.
Oh, there it is. All right, perfect. Good morning. All right.
Morning, Sean.
Well, Tracy did a fantastic job putting this briefing agenda together, so I'm just going to try to supplement what she provided and give you some information here on how the renewal is looking for 2024 and some recommendations that they'd like us to make for you. I'm just going to quickly go through a couple slides on reporting just to kind of give you an idea of where the plan is looking at through June of 2023. That'll lead into where that renewal is. So the county's been running very well for the first half of 2023. This slide is showing what we call a loss ratio. And as a fully insured plan, what this is really showing is the medical claims and the pharmacy claims that Health Partners has paid out compared to the premiums they've taken in. Year to date, that's 74.3%. That's a very favorable trend line. Last year, year end, you're about 94.7, so just under the full expected. Same time frame last year, you're at 61.1. Your enrollment is somewhat flat, slight growth here a little bit through June. If we look here at the bottom, fewer single bodies here on average, about 36 per month, but we have increased the plus child in the family. So overall, our contract change, just above 0.5%, but members, we've actually grown by 5%, so it'd be belly buttons on the plan. Now, when we look at the claims paid per month, what's important to look at, the left side, the light blue, is the full plan year 2022. And again, if we look down those bottom, those averages, you're averaging 127,000 just over that per month in claims this year, 128,339. So if we compare the first 6 months in what we call PEPM, per employee per month, it's actually a flat, that's negative 0.23% change. However, that's looking at 6 months compared to a full year. If we look on the far right, we can see month by month what that change has been in our per employee per month. And you can see the first 6 months, each month we've actually been significantly higher. Had a rough month in June here. So although we see that 0.23 negative down there, month by month we're running a higher per employee per month cost of claims. That'll come in importance here in the renewal. Your rolling 12, I think it's important for every group, even though you're fully insured, to know how your actual claims are trending. So on this, we're looking at the actual claims paid per month. Those are the blue bars. So every month you can see what claims are paid. Each red diamond is an average of the prior 12 months. So anytime we have a bar underneath that trend line, the trend comes down. Anytime we have it, it goes up. You can see in September and October of last year, we had some high months. But then we had some solid months from November through May, driving that trend line down, all the way down. But June, though, we just showed we had that high month. We break that out on a per employee per month basis. So same thing. Those months of September, October, and June are really driving the increase in your trend over the last 12. So you're fully insured, so you don't have stop loss insurance, but you do have what's called internal pooling point. So any claims over $50,000, Health Partners will not use those in your renewal. Now, they will charge you a pooling charge, but they will take these claims out. Through June, you only have 3 that we're marking. One has gone over that 50,000, and that's that top one there. So we look at straight contributions. Up top here, year to date, we have about $605,000 from the employer, just under $200,000 for the employee, for the cost of the plan, $805,000. If we remove from that plan expense the fully insured premiums, the employee contributions, that leaves that cost to the county of $605,000, or a per employee per month cost of $1,175.92, about a 3% increase over last year. So your plan is running favorably. I'm not going to call it a trend, but that is going to lead into a favorable renewal. And that's what we'll get into here. Okay, so quickly, just looking at your plan designs, the note I want to make here is when we talk about the renewal, there are no plan design changes being recommended. However, under the HSA plan, you do see there's some red up there. So under the HSA plan, you have what's called an embedded deductible. Long story short, what that means is if I'm driving home today from this meeting and I get in an accident, and I have a family of 4, I only have to meet the single deductible. That's called embedded. So my max would be the $3,200, okay? Every year, the IRS increases the minimum that an embedded deductible can be. So that plan will be going up to a $3,200, $6,400 deductible to remain embedded, okay? So it's not a recommended plan design change, it's one you would have to do in order to keep that plan as is. Everything else on the copay plan, all other out-of-pockets on the HSA plan, and all pharmaceuticals are staying the same. No plan design changes. Okay? All right, leads us into the renewal. So the initial renewal we received from Health Partners was a 3.11%, and that's right here. Now, I say this every year, but I always want to repeat it. We're taking a snapshot in time. This will not remain consistent, right? So up top here, we look at your enrollment in the copay plan by coverage tier. We're looking at enrollment in the HDHP plan by enrollment tier. So we take that snapshot, we say if everything stayed the same for the full 12 months in 2024 at a 3.11% increase, the overall cost is a $51,896 increase. Went back to Health Partners, asked for a couple options. We were able to negotiate the following 2. The first is a flat. We can bring that to a flat renewal, 0%. So no plan design changes, no cost changes. The other one, which we are recommending, is staying with that 3.1% increase. However, what we were able to do is negotiate a second-year rate cap, so 2025, of not to exceed trend, so 7% we're going to call it, which is actually less than trend, but they're going to set it at 7%. Their initial was 9%. The reason why that's being recommended is if I go back to that slide I just talked about the claims, although the first 6 months compared to all last year, your per employee per month is down, every month has been trending higher. This option here gives you a very favorable renewal at 3.1%, but that second year, knowing in 2025 it cannot exceed 7%, which will be less than trend. Okay. If we carry that 3.11% over, you can see how it'll hit the employees' paychecks as well as Lincoln County, if I can move the mouse there. So the yellow line here are the employee contributions, 2023 on the left, that light blue on the right. So the 3.11%, and I should go back, that is an aggregate. You can see that the copay plan is actually a 3.22% increase. The HDHP is a 2.27. So if we carry that through, those on the copay plan, for example, a single would go from $193.62 per month to $199.86 per month, or to the far right, an increase of $623 per month. plus spouse is a $1,559, child $1,299, and family $2,208. Down below is the HDHP. Those individuals will be getting a range of $3.47 per month up to a family of $1,229. Again, based on the enrollment, if everything stayed the same tier, same enrollment, after the employee contributions, that 3.11% circle down there to Lincoln County is a projected $39,000 increase. Again, it won't be that, you'll have enrollment changes, but that's the projection. Then, of course, the other option, as I mentioned, if you did go with a flat renewal, not tough to say, then everything would be flat. No cost to the employees, no cost to Lincoln County.
I do want to note, because we did pass the budget recently, that we had budgeted for a 12% increase for health insurance, so really happy with those two different options. Just wanted to put those numbers in front of you. Thanks.
All right. Any questions on the medical plan? Okay. The dental's very straightforward. There is no rate change. It's an employee-paid benefit. It's a rate lock, so you're no changes to the employee's costs there per month. Same with the vision through IMED, no change. You're actually in a 4-year rate lock, and those rates are good through 2027, so no change there. So aside from the medical, the other lines of coverage that we did work on with Tracy and the HR team is that of the ancillary. So when I talk about ancillary, I'm talking about the life insurance, the accident insurance, and the critical illness insurance. You can see we actually went to quite a few players in the market. We received a lot of proposals. We've actually been working on this since about mid-year with Tracy on this. And what we came to is the following. There were several carriers that provided solid proposals. What this is just looking at is the employer-paid base life. The rest of the benefits are all employee-paid, and I'll touch on those in a second. But the recommendation is going to be moving to Symetra. Now, right now, you're with MetLife for base life insurance. You're with the Hartford for voluntary life insurance. And you're also with the Hartford for accident and critical illness, voluntaries. The recommendation is to bring all of those into one carrier for not only price savings for both the employer and employee, but also for ease of administration, claims adjudication, and cost. So you can see on just the base life alone, exact same benefit, not changing any of the benefit that you provide to the employees, moved to Symetra as a slight savings at about $3,000 per year. That is a 3-year rate lock for that rate, so that'll be your rate for base life for the next 3 years, okay? I won't go through all of these slides, but if you do want to, I did put all the backup materials that go through. So for example, this is the base life. You can see your incumbent here in the gray, what the plan design looks like, and then of course here's Symetra over here, matching the plan, but you can see the rates are lower. So it goes from a 0.18 cents per thousand down to a 0.10 cents per thousand. I mentioned the voluntary life, so now we're talking about the employee side. So same thing, that the recommendation to move to Symetra. Again, looking at the proposals, Symetra just matched the current plan design. But the nice thing is actually on voluntary life rates, the rates go down with Symetra. So those employees currently enrolled with the voluntary life, yes, would have a new carrier, would have the same plan design, and they'd be paying less per month. Okay. Continue on with more voluntary benefits that you offer. Again, right now, the accident and critical illness are with the Hartford. Moving to Symetra, once again on accident, Symetra basically just matched the current plan design. But you can see over here, the rates are lower per month. Now, what the blue is there in the incumbent, we did take an invoice from Hartford to see, of the people enrolled, what are they paying? And so those are the categories you currently have enrollments in. So you can see they would be paying less per month with the Symetra plan. So again, similar benefit, less cost. And that moves into critical illness, and I'll just scroll down here. The one thing with critical illness will be different. Again, on the left side, Hartford rates. Column 1, they're not labeled here, but column 1 is a $10,000 policy which you offer. Column 2 is a $20,000. And so it simply goes from a 4-tier, smaller age bands over to Symetra. There's just greater age bands. We did look at those in the blue, those enrollments, to make sure that anyone that currently has the plan, again, would be paying equal or less with Symetra. So that's why we looked, the recommendation would be to roll all those benefits with one carrier, again, for ease of administration, claims adjudication, and of course, cost to both the county and to the employee. If we then take the employer, so we're going to take away the employees for a second, the voluntary lines, and we look at the key things that there's cost sharing. Medical, dental, vision, and base life. So there's two slides like this. This is kind of a roll-up. Total projected annual expenses at top, staff costs in the middle, and I'll point down to the county costs below. So today, current annual projected cost to the county for Health Partners is $1.254 million. With that 3.1% increase is the next line, and the flat, of course, is below. There's no contribution from the county on dental or vision, and then there's the current MetLife cost for base life. So if you were to go with the recommendation of using that 3.11% increase for Health Partners, all benefits in to the county projected $39,000 increase, or 3.1%. If you were to move to Symetra on the employer side for the base life, that goes down to 2.92% or $36,000. Okay. The last thing that Tracy wanted me to talk to you about was we did look at other benefits, some that might make sense, some that we'll just look at a different time. I believe on her agenda, one thing that they are recommending is adding a short-term disability on a voluntary basis, simply because it's a typical benefit offered. There isn't a cost to the county. Again, same layout as on the other slides above. There is no incumbent here because you don't have that benefit currently. But again, it would be with Symetra. You can see most all carriers looked at the same type of benefit. It's a traditional 60% to a minimum and maximum short-term disability. It's a 7-day elimination period for injury and sickness, and it goes up to 12 weeks. And then you can see down below here the age-banded rates. Again, this is something that they'd like to recommend be put into place, but again, on a voluntary basis. Long-term disability, that's something that we did look at, but we'll be presenting that possibly at a different time in a different year. And with that, any questions?
Good report.
Thank you.
Yes. Once again, Tracy, we did budget how much? 12%?
For the medical. Yep.
And we came in at what? 3?
Yep, just slightly over, 3.11.
You're welcome back anytime.
So
Commissioner
when I'm looking at the 2024 plan year renewal for the medical,
Yes.
maybe I'm not following. So there's two proposals.
Yeah.
Either
so-
keep it the same or it goes up. What allows it to stay the same?
Yep, so it's just a negotiation that we made with Health Partners, so we went back
Okay.
to them. So we do, that's what we do. Our job is to make sure to look at some additional claims, knowing that you're running favorably. But again, the reason why, in a lot of situations, we'd be saying take the flat. But looking at how your claims have trended the first 6 months are actually significantly higher than the prior year for 6 months. Having that buffer for the county next year, knowing that you're capped at 7. That doesn't mean you're going to get a 7, but you're capped at 7. If you go with the 0, then it's just a full traditional renewal
Okay,
for 2025.
thank you.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt, I've served with you a long time. When's the last time you've had a report like this where we either, A, we're not changing policies or companies or making adjustments, and had a report in which our rates at a minimum 3.1% or even 0 after negotiation?
Never.
So
Usually, it was
I want to
double.
thank the staff for being very cognizant of watching things as well, because it is their policy, so.
Absolutely.
I do want to thank everyone there. I'm leaning, sticking with going with the 0. My gut's telling me I'm trusting that. You take the 3 plus the 7 to 10 potential next year, that's what I'm thinking, but that's my thought. With adding combining the health and allowing the individuals to add the disability.
Commissioners, thoughts?
Well, I concur with Commissioner Poppins. Usually we have double digits, and then we play the rock and roll game of taking a company that lowballs one year, then next year they raise it up, and the employees don't know what they've got, and it's just been a roller coaster. So this is really, this is excellent, It's historic.
So
in fact.
which on the medical, which way are you leaning? Do you want to pay the additional 3% to keep it capped? Or do you want to leave it at 0 and then it's open season next year?
I can roll either way on that.
Madam Chair, I would probably prefer to pay the 3%, but then avoid the open season, so to speak.
Well, I don't think that's on the table.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the two options
that's
either.
the two,
Right.
that's the second option.
I could concur with Commissioner Aaron's on paying the 3%.
Probably just gives us a little more stability with regard to budgeting and controlling cost.
But
Madam
I
Chair?
also would like to make sure that we do give them the option for disability. But I don't have any heartburn either way.
Madam Chair, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm an attorney, so I like to manage risk. So, I'm on board with doing the 3%, only for that reason.
I think you're making a few people, at least in the audience, happy.
Well, I don't know, but that's where I'm at right now, but, I'm not the one making a motion, so.
Either way, it's a great option to vote between these two, so.
I agree. So can I get a motion from somebody?
Before I make my motion, sir, what would we call that, option 1 or option 2?
I would call option 1 is the flat.
Okay.
Option 2 is the 3.1 with the second-year rate cap. That'd be option 2.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we adopt and approve what's been referred to as option 2.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion from Aaron, second from Schmidt. Any public input on
Madam
this?
Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. Was it option 1 or option 2? the
Option
motion?
2 is the motion that's on the floor right now.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any public input on this agenda item? All right, if not, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins,
Respectfully, no.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes, thank you. And then you needed to know on,
So the second one would be to move all of your ancillary lines, so your base life insurance, your voluntary life insurance, the voluntary accident, and the voluntary critical illness to Symetra, while adding the voluntary short-term disability with Symetra as well.
and what's the cost share on that, or is there no cost
Yep,
share?
so on the employer side, it's just the base life insurance, and there's a slight savings to the county of about just over $2,000, and that comes with a 3-year rate guarantee as well. There'll also be employee savings on the voluntary life, the accident, the critical illness, and of course, the short-term disability would be a new voluntary benefit.
All right, anybody have any questions about that?
Just out of curiosity, what's our, of the universe of employees that we have here, how many enroll and use this service?
I don't have the actual numbers on. I can tell you, so the voluntary life, you have a good amount of employees. The accident and critical illness are a little bit lower, 10s to 20s, maybe tops. And so that's why we highlighted in the blue. So I don't have the numbers for you. You can kind of see where they're at. They're kind of smattered. In the accident, you have both the high and low policies employees taking, employee plus spouse, child, and family coverages. So you do have utilization in it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion, unless somebody's got any further comments or questions, I'll make a motion to adopt and approve the recommendation for the consolidation of the services into one.
Is that sufficient to tell you what's going on?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I've got a motion and a second. Commissioners, any discussion? All right, any public input on this agenda item? All right, if not, we call the roll, please.
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes, that motion carries. Need anything else from us
No,
today?
thank you very much.
All right,
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to our next agenda item. Tracy, you've got that one?
Yes. Again, Tracy Humphrey, HR Director. So this is board action to approve and authorize the chair to execute the wellness service agreement with Wealth 365 for the period of November 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2024. This agreement is the same that we've seen in previous years. The reason why I'm coming to you rather than bringing it onto consent agenda was to note that we would like to change the contract from, instead of from November to October, to be January through December. That way it runs more concurrent with our current county benefits. Additionally, there was a language change. So like I say, in the page 4 of the agreement, it lays out the costs. There's a language change from wellness or from health coaching to wellness coaching. The reason for that is that Well 365 is partnered with us to look at more like mental health coaching as part of our physical health. We all know that we're interconnected beings, and one of the biggest feedbacks I've gotten from staff is they want more wellness support and mental health support. So Well 365 changed their language, so that gives us opportunities to help with staff, whether they need physical health coaching or mental health coaching. Otherwise, this contract is the same that you guys have approved previously.
What was the cost for the year?
The increased cost for the year, let me apologize, I forgot to pull that up. So it's going to be looking at about a price increase of about $3,000. I did budget, I believe, $3,500 of an increase for the over last year.
For a total of what?
I apologize. I actually don't have those numbers in front of me. I could get them and get back to you.
So, but the increase is $3,000.
Yeah.
Are the employees utilizing the?
Yes, so we
Service?
actually, right now, we have about 80 participants. I'll get my actual numbers of how many people met the qualifications. I'll get that next week, I believe. But we also do our biometric screenings, which every year we get completely full with. So right now, we have a number of, about 80 staff, I believe, that are participating in those as well. So sometimes people do the biometric screening and then don't do the coaching afterwards. So that's why I'll have more firm numbers that I can include on our reports at the end of this month.
Does anybody else want to see what the total cost is before we act on it?
Madam Chair, if you, want to entertain a motion to table for a week?
Well, I can either table it or we can just take a break from it and
Yeah, I
come back to it if she wants to grab those numbers for us, and we'll just move on to the next item for now.
I can do that.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item 4 on our agenda. Good morning, Becky.
Good morning. Becky Vanderbroek, Register of Deeds. I'm here today to ask the board to approve of the creation of a $200 cash change account to be used by the Register of Deeds to make change. And this is pretty much just.
You
just
really
to
need
make-
our permission?
I don't know. That's,
Okay,
I will so move. Second, yeah.
I've got a motion from Poppins, second from Aaron's. Any public input on this agenda item? All right, we can call the roll, please.
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes, the motion carries.
Thank
Becky,
you very
before you
much.
rush off, what are you finding about transfers and sales of homes and property? Are we holding our own? Are we up, down? What do you see?
Sales are down, obviously, and definitely refis are down. The only thing holding it is that the house sale prices are still up. So we're maybe seeing, not quite what we saw in revenue as in years where all these were up, but we're getting close just because of the big sales. And there has been some big commercial sales this year, which obviously flexes our
Overall
numbers a little
sales are
bit.
down a lot.
Yeah, I would say we're recording less documents than we have in the past.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Becky.
Yep, Thank you.
Okay.
All right, next item, Sherry.
So I'm bringing for you, or to you today, board action for expenditure of $1,000 to NACO for the public land for counties. My original request, I did ask for the funds to be taken out of the LATCF account. In further research, I believe if we're going to do this, then the expenditure needs to come out of the general fund account, due to not doing lobbying with the LATCF funds.
And then this is like, we give 1,000 and we get money back? Is
We don't
that-
get money back. What we do is we give 1,000 to NACO, and then they prevent, or they get a, I don't know, what is the word, Jim? They do a board that would go and they would discuss the public lands options for fire prevention. In the briefing packet, they send a letter stating everything that they would do with the funds.
All right, thank you. Anybody have any questions for Sherry?
Sherry, do we know how many lands in Lincoln County qualify under public lands?
I do not.
I think that it'd be a national, Mike, to get the PILT, this payment in lieu of taxes, it has to be a national ownership. And I don't know, I think we may get, it's exceedingly small amount. Mainly, what that does is it helps land in the West River that have huge public land that they get no taxes from. So like Zebach and Meade and, you know, Buffalo and places like that, they probably live for their county expenditures come off of PILT. And that's one of the main things that NACO does, is lobby and takes this money and puts that to kind of that use, so.
Sherry, in the document, it talks about one-time payment represents only 1% of the total LACTF dollars. Do we know how many dollars we've received?
We received 100,000, but again, if we approve this, I'm recommending that you do not use the LATCF.
Yeah, I'm just curious how
Okay.
many of the dollars
Okay,
were.
yeah. We received 100,000 from it.
Yep.
All right, thank you, Sherry. Other questions for the auditor? All right, if not, I'd consider a motion.
I'd move for approval, Madam Chair.
Second.
Thank you. I've got a motion from Smith, second from Aaron's. Any public input on this agenda item? All right, we call the roll, please.
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon?
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins?
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt?
Yes?
Commissioner Landine?
Yes. Motion carries. Move on to item 6 on our agenda. Commissioner Aaron's, you're handling that?
Yeah, thank you.
Madam Chair, I will step down.
Okay.
Thank you.
You can stay and listen if you want.
Oh, I'll be out there. I'll hear.
Okay.
You sure?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've had an opportunity to visit with some landowners, with the pipeline, with other stakeholders, legislators, listen to all the planning and zoning commission meetings, et cetera. Had an opportunity to watch and listen to the Public Utilities Commission meetings, read some of the reports coming out of there, as well as having had an opportunity to read the new PHMSA guidance as well. As a result of that, I directed staff to draw up an ordinance with regard to setbacks on CO2 pipelines. They've come back with a suggested draft, and in that draft, we've settled on a 500-foot setback from habitated properties, as well as a, so that's a 500-foot setback from the pipeline to the habitated property. We've also settled on a 1-mile setback from any municipalities, regardless of size, to the pipeline as well. So, in the process of drafting the ordinance and hearing from the stakeholders, I had an opportunity to speak with the pipeline, and I asked the pipeline to make some concessions and expressed to them some of the concerns. The pipeline was open to hearing those concerns, which was good. They have agreed here in Lincoln County to move their pipeline route back south by 2 miles. Essentially, it's a multi-million-dollar concession because they have to, all of the money that they gave to pay for easements is going to remain with those people who purchased the easements, and they're going to have to purchase new easements on that land. So, but I told them that one of the things we need to work on is getting more distance between the pipeline and municipalities for growth and planning purposes. That was a major issue. And to their credit, they did agree to move that pipeline route back. So they were willing to make that concession as well. What I also discussed with them is the fact that under federal law, federal case holding, county cannot regulate on the basis of pipeline safety. That's the exclusive jurisdiction for pipeline safety resides with the federal government. So as a county, we can only regulate on the basis of land use planning and setbacks. So in order to mitigate risk, the pipeline has committed to spend $1 million on behalf of, or contribute that in the form of a grant program to first responders, not only here in Lincoln County, but throughout the footprint of the pipeline statewide. And I told them that it's not going to be acceptable to just say you're going to do it. And so what they've agreed to do is, regardless of whether the permit comes through, because we can't control what's going to happen in North Dakota or Illinois. So what the pipeline has agreed to do is, in terms of contributing to first responders, they will give 35 to 40% of that as soon as possible in the form of a grant program to affected fire departments, ambulance services, et cetera, that are in the footprint of the pipeline. And then the remainder of that will be contributed upon permit approval by the PUC. So in terms of major concessions, I do believe that the pipeline now has got the message, and they're starting to work with local communities in terms of what's going to have to be done in order to bring the pipeline through. To that end, I think here in Lincoln County, it's probably time to be able to get an ordinance on the books that creates a setback. And my general philosophy on this is that the pipeline needs a regulatory pathway. They need to be able to make it through, but they also have to be subject to reasonable setbacks. I believe a reasonable setback in terms of land use planning is 500 feet because it does not require the use of waivers in order to be able to transmit energy. Just from a public policy point of view, we've got to defend ethanol cost. If the pipeline is able to make it through, we're looking at an increase in the corn basis of 19 cents a bushel. We're looking at increased biofuel production of 217 million gallons a year, 77 million bushels of corn demand increase in the future moving on. I mean, the message is clear. We need more energy created in America. I would like to see South Dakota farmers being able to produce that energy as opposed to being beholden to foreign interest where we have to pull oil from foreign countries. I don't think anybody wants to be beholden to a foreign country anymore. I mean, for example, China is no longer buying a significant amount of American corn. They're buying it from Brazil. And what's happened is China has made major infrastructure upgrades in Brazil And now those Brazilian farmers are competing with South Dakota farmers for energy production. It not only has a local impact here, because when you sell more corn, it impacts the local community as well, but it also has a national security and energy security imperative as well. The other thing is economic development. Gevo, major manufacturer of aviation fuel, has said they will put a $1 billion plant up in Lake Preston, South Dakota, if the CO2 pipeline goes through. That's 55 million gallons of aviation fuel annually produced, not from places like oil that comes from Iraq or Iran or China or Saudi Arabia, comes from South Dakota corn. And so being able not only to maintain the current corn markets, but being able to open up more corn markets is essential to the lifeblood of South Dakota corn farmers. If the Gevo plant would open, it'll have a $1 billion economic development impact on the state of South Dakota. It'll also result in 55 million gallons of aviation fuel being created from corn as opposed to petroleum each year, and it'll result in 90 full-time employees. So what we do here in Lincoln County not only will have an impact on local Lincoln County residents, and not only on state policy, but it also has an impact on our national policy and international policy, because it means less reliance upon foreign sources of energy, and it means we're more reliant upon ourselves for the production of that energy cost. And I think moving into the future, I'm concerned about the influence China has in the world, and we need to decouple our policy and our economy from China as much as possible. And that means using the resources we have, including right out here in our cornfield, in order to do that. So, what I'm proposing, Madam Chair, is, and I'll make this motion, and what I'll do is I'll move that we put forward the ordinance in front of the Planning and Zoning Committee for their consideration and recommendation.
So my first question for you is, you said that you had directed staff to draft this. So was this the draft that they suggested, or was this written by you?
No, there was a change in between the draft that they wrote and I wrote, and the change is the following. Pulling that up right now. If you go to page 2, under section 3, capital I-1, and you go to sentence 2, their language was, the setback shall be measured from the pipeline to the closest point of the building or property line, depending on the identified use type. Well, my question to them is, what does that mean? So, in my language here, the change that I made is, the setback shall be measured from the pipeline closest to the point of the building, or in the case of a public park, property line. Then, so that's change 1, Madam Chair. Change 2 that I made is, so if you look at my version.
Your version's the only version that I have.
Oh, okay. All right. So if you look at my version, under section G, we're in section 3, capital I, and then go to paragraph 2. Any pipeline 16 inches in diameter or larger shall be set back a minimum of 5,280 feet from an incorporated city. So the reason I included that in there is because the main trunk line of a CO2 pipeline is larger than 16 inches. That absolutely, under this statute, will be prohibited from being within 1 mile of a municipality. However, if in the future there is a ethanol plant that gets located within a municipal boundary or within their growth area, what this would allow is it would allow the feeder line that goes from the trunk line to be located within the 5,280 foot limit. So those are the two changes, Madam Chair.
Those are the only two changes?
Yes, I believe so. And if staff or State's Attorney's Office wants to correct me on that, they can, but in the phone call that I had with them last week, I believe that was the two issues that we had discussed.
So in their suggested draft, all the conditional use language for all those other sections, 3, 4, and 5 was contained in their suggested draft?
Okay, so they did not, they did one section, but it would have been applicable to all of the zoning, zoning. I think it was just a matter of when I drafted mine, I drafted it in such a way so that it comprehensively amends each section, although it does appear to be duplicative.
Okay,
So I
okay.
think it's just a matter of style as opposed to a substantive change.
Well, can you what's a little bit of your rationale for wanting a conditional use? Because I guess in my X amount of years, both as state's attorney and now as commissioner, wouldn't that be a variance that they
Well-
would have to show? Because this doesn't seem like it has any teeth to me if they can then come and get a conditional use and then we're spotting conditional uses all over the county for a pipeline.
Well, I'm open to a permitted use and striking the conditional use. I mean, if we, in fact, and I've thought about this, and I did talk with the State's Attorney's Office and Toby about it, is the three of us did agree during our phone call that it should in fact be a permitted use instead of allowing for a conditional use. And then that way, the pipeline applicant will either meet the requirements that we set forth or they won't. So I did talk about that with staff and there did seem to be agreement on the permitted use process instead of a CUP.
Okay, thank you for that. I guess my understanding of what's going on is that there's 3, maybe 4 drafts of this floating around that I don't think any of the commissioners have seen in total. I know myself has not. This came on the agenda really late on Friday on a holiday weekend. So I'm confident in saying I don't think the other commissioners have had a chance to look at any of these proposals with any depth or have any discussion. So I appreciate you bringing it forward. I don't think that we're at a point to make a recommendation, and I certainly don't want planning and zoning to get the impression that the commission as a whole would be endorsing this particular ordinance. So I would ask respectfully if we can table this.
Absolutely. Do you have a deadline in mind? I'm more than open to doing that.
When is the next P and Z meeting, other than the one tomorrow? I think there's a joint one tomorrow, but.
The next P and Z is in November, and I believe is it November 19, 20, 21-ish? I mean, there's still enough time for each of the commissioners to consider this and get it on the November P and Z meeting.
Well, I think that would be a more reasonable way to go, I guess. That's my thinking anyway.
Madam Chair,
Yep, go ahead.
Commissioner Aaron's, I will commend you for your activity and your, you know, digging into this. However, I don't understand why we want to rush to judgment on this thing. As our chair has said, there's probably 3 competing ordinances that have been considered out there. I know that there are many active citizens that have put countless hours and countless dollars into studying this pipeline thing. They have been true champions for their own right. So rather than us try to put this thing together in 30 days, I would like to see that the Lincoln County Commission and the Planning and Zoning Board meet in mutual thing. And we would sit down and vet all of these proposals and look at them for face value. Commissioner Aaron's, you say that you would like 500. There are people out there that want 13, they want 18, or how many? I don't have a magic formula on that. However, we should be able to discuss this because this is a far-reaching situation. And this really does, as you have said, affect not only the landowners, but it affects the future growth, and it affects the economy in this thing. So rather than putting a timeline that we want to get this thing on in November, I don't have any heartburn if we waited until the first of the year, until we've had time to publicly discuss this thing in an open forum where people they've put their input, and when they got done their input, we sit down as the Planning and Zoning Board and the Commission, and we come up with what we think is going to be the best interest for everybody. That means there's going to be give and take. That means there's going to be a lot of compromise that maybe go on, but that to me is the right way to go about this thing. So I'm all in favor, Madam Chair. I'll make the motion that we table this thing and not put a timeline on it.
All right, is there a second for that?
I'll second it, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Further discussion amongst the commission?
Yeah, Commissioner Schmidt, I'm not opposed to you having time to look at it and discuss it. I'm not opposed to it having a full vetting at planning and zoning. In fact, I think many people welcome that. People opposed to it, people for it. I absolutely agree. But I do think that we as elected officials have a duty to provide regulatory certainty to people who are wanting to make any kind of investment in the county, whether that is somebody locally who would want to make a investment of a land purchase of some type in which regulations affect them, or it's a multi-billion-dollar pipeline. We owe to all citizens, all applicants, regulatory certainty. We owe that to the applicants. Because let's face it, not everybody is applying for a CO2 pipeline. I get that. It's very rare. In fact, these are weighty issues that really most county commissions may not even be equipped to grapple with because they are such large issues that have such huge economic impact. But I'm confident that we can actually figure this out. I think an ordinance would be better than no ordinance at all, because the alternative here is that there would be no ordinance whatsoever. And that wouldn't provide any regulatory certainty either. And what that means is that our cities here in Lincoln County are subject to having the pipeline routed closer to them than 1 mile. Because here's what's going to happen, Commissioner Schmidt. These pipelines at some point in time are going to reapply with the Public Utilities Commission. And they're going to say, what are the rules? And the PUC offered an opinion on 2 county commission ordinances so far, Sioux Falls and Moody County. Haven't ruled on any of the others. They were asked about the preemption issue. PUC basically just said, look, you're going to have to you're gonna have to live with them, you gotta follow their rules. But that's important, because Commissioner Schmidt, what the PUC is, they said to the pipeline, you have to follow their rules. So then the question becomes, what is the duty and obligation of us as policymakers to provide advance notice of what the rules are? What is the policy? And I don't think it should I don't think they should have to wait for heaven and a day. I don't think anybody should have to, whether it's a local producer here at the local level or a big pipeline. Doesn't matter. So I don't like the idea of just leaving this hang out there in the wind, because that doesn't create regulatory certainty. People elected us to get something on the books. Or maybe we're not able to come to a compromise, and maybe we can't get anything. But I do think that compromise could be found, and I do think that a regulatory pathway has to be articulated for these people ahead of time so that we're not creating a moving target. So here's what I guess I'm saying. Would you be willing to say that we should have this discussion with P&Z in November? I mean, this thing's been percolating now for a year. I mean, you don't need another year. I'm being a little facetious, of course. I don't think you even need another 6 months. So I think you just need to cowboy up and say, we're going to do it, put our big boy pants on, and put it to the people in P&Z and do it in November.
You know, I want to clarify one thing. You're well-spoken, Counselor, but there is no way that, in my interpretation, that we were not going to come up with some kind of ordinance. We will have an ordinance. We will have that. Now, what you're saying is that, can we do this in a month? And I'm saying, well, maybe. But on the other hand, I'm still saying that I'd rather not put a guideline, and I'm not trying to say that we're not going to do it. I don't see any PUC regulations that are going to call for us that we have to respond to them by any certain date. So if it takes 30 days or if it takes 60 days, fine. If we can get the Planning and Zoning Board together along with the County Commission, and we can do that in 30 days, fine. But maybe in that 30-day period, we may not be able to come to a full conclusion, but maybe we'll have to work a little longer and a little harder. So 60 days, I'm comfortable with saying 60 days out there. But I do want to have this idea that we're going to do this in an open forum and let them know. Now, you're talking about the county's responsibility. The PUC gave the counties a tremendous amount of leeway in dictating on CO2 pipelines, on putting setbacks. We can't talk about safety because that's a federal one. That I think everybody understands. But we can talk about development, we can talk about depth, we can talk about setbacks, we can talk about a lot of things and get some ideas. So if you want part of this to table this thing, and you want to table it, I'll add 60 days on there if that makes you feel better or everybody feel better. That's fine. If we can try it in 60 days and come up with something, that'd be a major step forward. But I'm still going back, and I'm going to repeat it one more time. I want to have both bodies engaged in all the possible recommendations that are being brought forward. As our chair has said, there are probably 3 different ordinances that are floating around out there. Well, I haven't read them. I don't think anybody's read them. I mean, we're not going to do what Congress does, just read it and trust me. I don't like that either. So you got to give a chance to have everybody be able to read, digest, and understand. Because this is a very complicated issue, and I'd rather fault on the side of slowness than the side of speed. So would you concede that 60 days is a period of time?
Sure. What is the precise thing you're asking for at the end of the 60 days? Are we going to hold a meeting?
Well, here's what I want to do. I think there's people here that maybe want to speak to this. We can argue about the time length of this all day long, but if there are people now that want to come up and speak on this agenda item, now would be the time to do so.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Gibbon?
May I make just one comment?
You sure can.
I guess I would rather make sure that we took our time and made sure that we did it right.
Thank you for that comment. Again, any members of the public wish to come up and speak on this agenda item? This is not our public hearing on this item. This is simply for public comment on the agenda item and the motion to table, so you'll have 3 minutes to speak. And I'm going to limit the total time to a half hour. And yes, if you're going to speak, if you'd sign in, that would be great. Please state your name and where you're from on the record, though. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners.
Madam Chair?
Yes?
Madam Chair, will you please remind those that are speaking to speak into the mic? It's difficult to hear otherwise. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Sarah Stever, Lennox, South Dakota. I want to thank you for tabling this and giving us some time to prepare for this. I'm one of the 50 landowners that signed the ordinance that came in on Friday morning. And I'm curious if I might ask a question of the council.
It's not so much the time for questions, but we will have a discussion after we hear from everybody, so maybe your question may be addressed at that time. So you can go ahead and tell us what you're
Thank
wondering.
you. I'm just
Okay.
curious on the timing of when the ordinance was written and both drafts.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. As I drove here today, I went through 9 Mile Creek, the low spot created by that and the fog that was resting there, very beautiful. But I was also reminded of the place where I live, which sits downhill on Beaver Creek, and the possibility of CO2 once it's been compressed and then escapes a pipeline, how it settles into the low spots of an area. So you mentioned earlier that you are all concerned about managing risk. Joel, I believe that was your phrase. I'm also concerned about managing risk for my family. And I won't use the S word, but I will use the R word, which is risk. So we look forward to actually working with you. Thank you for giving us some extra time on this. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else want to come up?
I believe a lot of things that were stated by the commissioner.
Can you kind of lean into your mic a little bit? You're a tall guy. Thanks, Tony.
I believe a lot of things said by the commissioner are fictitious, hypothetical. There's no permits in Lincoln County. There are all these things saying about extra money, 19 cents a bushel. I mean, I could say if we put a wind generator in front of the microphones in front of the commissioners, we maybe can power the lights, but we don't have any facts behind this. And so you need to start recognizing the development of all of Lincoln County. And if you're only going to give somebody 500 feet on a land, you better just tax them at 500 feet on an entire section or quarter. The next thing is it used to be the Wild West, where they'd come in and they'd say, if you pass this, we're going to sue you, we're going to sue you. You know, the PUC came down with some pretty new things. And I encourage the board to reach out to the citizens and the people to try to come up with a good setback and some good standards. And I will be glad to help. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good morning, Commissioners. Excuse me. I didn't plan to speak this morning, but after sitting there, I felt that I should get up. I testified at the hearing at the PUC, on the Navigator hearing, and obviously we all know, we read what came down from that. The PUC did give a way forward. They recognized the ordinances that were put in place by the counties, which we were very thankful for Moody and Minnehaha doing that. And so now that we have that green light, you know, I think this is great to table this today, to take some time to hear more input. There are things that are constantly changing with this whole narrative. You know, you heard today the corn prices and all of that, but there are alternatives to the CO2 pipelines. There is the companies that are coming in that want to convert ethanol to methanol. So there are those kinds of things. There's also concerns that are coming out. Just last night, I heard that there was a discussion at Kansas State about the jet fuel and problems with gelling and all of those kinds of things. So these things have not been completely vetted yet. So let's take our time, let's take a breath, and we do appreciate if you guys would look at a reasonable ordinance at some point in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak?
Scott Montgomery, Fairview, South Dakota. I just encourage you to table this. I don't think there's anything we need to rush into. I heard the mention of foreign influence on our foreign influence. I'll just leave it as that. But I want to remind this commission there's foreign influence in these pipeline ownership. That's the main thing we got to remember here. There is foreign owners of this proposed pipeline. I don't think the pipeline companies have been honest with any of us, and I don't think we ought to take them at their word at what they're presenting now. I don't think 500 feet is anywhere close to enough. So I would suggest we all get together and put our heads together and do the best we can to protect the citizens of Lincoln County. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Betty Otten, 46787 273rd Street in T. Commissioners, may I say that this is a huge conflict of interest for Commissioner Aaron's to even bring this resolution, as he's already said that he was working with the pipelines to bring this. The PUC on September 6th, the minutes, towards the very bottom, Commissioner Chris Nelson moved to deny the applicant's motion to preempt county ordinances, and that motion carried 3-0, which was already brought up by Commissioner Aaron's. In my humble opinion, because the PUC denied both Navigator and Summit the right to preempt county ordinance, as was already stated, this resolution presented by Commissioner Aaron's in conjunction with Summit's Dan Lederman, he has already said that it will be introduced to prevent higher setbacks greater than the 500 feet. Summit has publicly stated it will bring back its plan to the PUC and is working overtime to get these types of county resolutions passed ahead of time. It's no surprise that Commissioner Aaron's is behind this CO2 pipeline resolution, but what is surprising is his use of the commission position to bring this resolution with the 154.400 application to preempt going through the regular channels. Of great concern is the 500-foot setback from a single-family dwelling, church, school, nursing home, hospital, business, public park, or CAFO from the pipeline to the closest point of the building, not from the lot line. This is just an incredible and unreasonable setback. There have been 2 previous CO2 pipeline resolutions, which cost that person $345 per resolution, which the commission denied. So now Commissioner Aaron's gets to use his commissioner position to bypass the P&Z fee and to get this resolution fast-tracked. Again, I will remind you that Commissioner Aaron's has already stated that he has a conflict of interest, and he shouldn't be able to just fast-track this. In fact, the very first pipeline filing brought by Tony Ventura had him jumping through hoops, but was finally passed unanimously by 5-0. Then lo and behold, in this very room with no agenda, it was passed, sat Dan Lederman, and Commissioner Aaron's asked for an executive session and came forward to send it back to P&Z because the opposition needed to have a voice. Well, really, the P&Z meeting at that particular time that they passed it unanimously was a legally called public meeting, and they decided not to come. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Madam Chair, just to correct the record.
And I'll
I've never-
let
yeah, I've never
you
said
do that. I'll let you do that here when we're
Yeah,
done
thank
with
you.
public. Thank you.
Yeah, I've never said I have a conflict.
Anybody else want to come up?
Yes, Linda Montgomery from Fairview, South Dakota. I appreciate the initial motion to table this, and I desperately hope that you do that. The other thing that I want before more discussion, or during the discussion, when it goes to planning and zoning, we have to know the plume studies. there's one of the motions or one of the ordinances out there that is using the plume study from Navigator, and that's a much smaller pipe than Summit is. I think we have to, I know Summit is big in this area. We need to know the plume study before we can really look at these ordinances. And I hope that that's a move forward and something that is requested by this commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to come up? All right, if not, there were a couple of things probably that we need to address. Ms. Stever asked about the timing of the drafting. I don't know, Commissioner Aaron's, if you want to speak to that, and then Ms. Otten also made some comments questioning whether you had a conflict. So if you want to address those, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So staff worked on the first draft of the ordinance 3 weeks ago, about, and then I provided my draft to them last week, Friday.
All right, thank you for that.
With regard to Ms. Otten's comments, don't know where to start, but with regard to her claim that I have previously said I have a conflict of interest, it's just not true. I've never said that. It's very easy for her to make such zany allegations, but it's just not true. Nor do I have a conflict of interest. I don't work for the pipeline. I don't have any financial interest in the pipeline. The legal standard under South Dakota law for whether you have a conflict of interest is whether you as a commissioner have a direct pecuniary interest in the subject of the legislation. Pipeline doesn't provide me any money. It doesn't take any money away from me personally. And I have no pecuniary interest in the pipeline whatsoever. So that meets the test. Additionally, State's Attorney's Office, when Bill Golden was here, already cleared me on it. So, you know, you can make all these allegations you want, but it's just not the way that we're going to get sound public policy made here by pulling the pin on a grenade and throwing it in the room and hoping it creates some damage. That's just not, these are big issues that we need to move forward on. We need to get past all this personal animus and allegations here so we can move forward and get something done for the people of South Dakota, get something done for South Dakota corn growers. With regard to Linda Montgomery's comment, Linda, yes. I have asked the pipeline to provide the plume studies. And they haven't. No, let me finish. They have agreed as part of their concessions to provide us as commissioners with the plume studies. Okay? They're going to provide decision makers and policy makers with access to that information. So previously, Summit, many, many months ago, provided copies of those plume studies to the PUC. That was a staff-to-staff transfer that happened. The PUC is not allowed to release that information to the public, I believe. Now, there was a comment made by Gary Hansen at one of the PUC commission meetings where he's like, said something to the extent, I believe, of these studies were not provided to us. Well, that may have been from Navigator, but Summit has told me, and I've asked for concessions on this. I've asked for copies of the plume studies, okay? So those are things that I've asked for. I've also asked for depth of cover concessions as well, because people like Jason Vandentop very early on came in here and said, how come it's going to be at 4 feet, not at 6 feet? And the concession that they made on that is that they will voluntarily agree to do 6-foot depth of cover in their easements with landowners. So they agreed to increase those things when I talked to them. So number of concessions were made on that front. But plume studies, just to answer your question, they're going to provide them to policymakers, yes.
But not to the public?
I don't know yet. I didn't ask them to provide it to the public. The context of the conversation was, will you give it to me so I can see it? That was the context of the conversation, okay?
All right, thank you. So we had a motion to table and we were discussing timelines. One suggestion was to bring this back forward in November. Another was to table it indefinitely. So can I get a more specific motion from
Madam
somebody?
Chair, I would put a 60-day situation on there.
60 days for what?
60 days, and we come back with what we find.
Okay.
I mean, we may have one, we may not.
All right.
But during those 60 days, we're going to have a complete vetting of all three that are out there right now and see what we come back with.
All right. Is there a second to that
In
motion?
the interest of compromise, Madam Chair, I'll second that.
All right, I've got a motion from Schmidt, a second from Aaron's. Any further discussion amongst the commissioners?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I just had one other thing here. Tony Ventura, Tony is a great guy. I have great comments with him. I respect what he says, but I respectfully disagree with his thing that the bullet points I was providing regarding production agriculture, basis points in grain and all of that are are fictitious. I think your comment was, let me finish.
No, we're not getting into the back and forth.
So-
Go ahead and finish with your
So, in response to Tony, this is the economic impacts of CO2 pipeline in South Dakota. It's created by the Dakota Institute. You may take issue with it, but nonetheless, these are their findings. This isn't just Aaron's making these numbers up. This is the study in which I pulled it from, okay? So, you don't have to agree with it, but I just want to let you and the public know that is where the numbers came from.
What study was that?
It's called Economic Impacts of CO2 Pipelines in South Dakota. It was prepared by the Dakota Institute
All right.
here in Sioux Falls.
Thank you for that. All right, any further discussion amongst the commission? Commissioner Gibbon, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
No, I would just like clarification on the motion again, Madam Chair.
This is a motion to table this for 60 days.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, Christine, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon?
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt?
Yes.
Commissioner Landine?
Yes. Sorry, I called you Christine and not Kristen. My bad.
One pass.
All right.
Which made too long.
Now I'm going to circle back to item 3 on our agenda. Tracy, did you have those numbers on the cost for that wellness?
Yes, all right. Thank you for letting me come back and speak to the numbers. So again, this is about the wellness service agreement, item number 3. So currently, the annual budget for the wellness program is $84,240. Of that, $36,000 of it is for this wellness agreement. The other amount is for the wellness incentive our employees get for completing the program.
So which part of it is going up the 3,500, the 36?
So the 3,500 is going for the increase of the contract with them. So we're going from about 33,000 to 36,140 or 160.
Okay. And the rest of the contract is not affected?
Correct.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for Tracy on that agenda item? If not, I
What
can sort
percentage of our, excuse me, Madam Chair,
Yeah, go ahead.
what percentage of our employees participate in this program?
Absolutely. So the numbers there, we have 113 employees over the last 12 months that participated, 80 of which are at this point eligible. I'll get final numbers for the end of the year, but about 80 of the employees, so a little bit over 60% of our staff are eligible, with 80% participating.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly.
Thank you for that. Can I get a motion, please?
Madam Chair, move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any public input on this agenda item? All right, if not, welcome back, Commissioner Poppins. Kristen, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon?
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins?
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt?
Yes.
Commissioner Landine?
Yes, that motion carries.
Thank you.
Now we are going to move on to our opportunity for public comment. So anybody that wishes to come up and speak, please make sure you've signed in and then come on up. And And go ahead, you'll be limited to 3 minutes.
Good morning,
Per
Commissioner.
person, that is. Good morning.
Appreciate that clarification. My name is Kaya Broders. I live at 47580 278th Street. As many of you are probably expecting this morning, I'm bringing forth the issue and would very much appreciate the input of our county commissioners in regards to the newly determined Department of Corrections site. I, as a mother of two, have lived on my acreage for the last 7 years. We will be approximately 1 mile from this facility. In the healthcare, I'm actually a nurse. I have toured the current facilities. I'm aware of some of the inner workings. My first comments that I would like to bring forth to these commissioners are the facts of safety, not only for those of my family, my neighbors, but I also am concerned about the staff, the prisoners that are within this facility. 20 minutes from the edge of Sioux Falls is quite a long time when you consider some of the activities that happen within the prison. My understanding is that the Jamison Annex would also continue to operate. Current status right now within the prison would be if there is a riot that breaks out in one of the smaller areas or bunkhouses, that the more trained staff from the Jamison Annex would then come into those areas and help provide support. I also am concerned about the impact that this will have on our critical access hospitals, the fact that it's volunteer fire departments, and we have a more limited police presence in these areas. I'd very much like to hear the county commission's, take and thoughts on this, especially with the land that was zoned as an AG1, understanding that the Department of Corrections has put out there that they aren't needing to go through the zoning process. But I'm asking from a commission standpoint that from some aspect that we take a greater look at this and the economic development, to Commissioner Aaron's point of even the corn production. This is 360 acres of ground that does currently produce corn and soybean, as well as the lack of emergency responsiveness that is needed for a facility of such. I don't have the best solutions. However, I would like to look at a more suitable roadway such as interstate to allow for a quicker response time of those emergency management pieces that will serve not only the inmates, staff, but then also those that are around my area.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for your comments, and I will say this to anybody that is wondering, these are things that we're looking at and working on what our options are. So there's no decisions have been made at this point as far as how, as a county, we're going to move forward and whether we can honestly do anything at all. So we are looking at those things. So just want everybody to be advised of that. Anybody else want to come up?
I'm Jill Paulson, Harrisburg. Our farm is on the northwest quarter of the section of the proposed site of this new state penitentiary. A week ago, we had no idea about this. And so my first question is why? Why was this information kept from the public until right before?
And I'm going to tell you right now that we knew the same time you knew, so.
All right.
We weren't in any
Second
better
thing is,
situation.
I'm a homeschool mom with my children. We have animals, and all three of my children are outside multiple times each day doing chores and playing around our yard. And we have a number of outbuildings and a large grove. There are many times where I don't know where they are for maybe even several hours because they're just outside playing. And if this is built, I will be scared for my children to be outside without my being with them. With potentially 400 employees and families of inmates driving around our area, I will not feel the safety that I do now. There are many families in our area with kids, and all the moms I've spoken to are very concerned for their children and their family. And the last thing I want to say is with Harrisburg's growth, there are just many people living even within a 2-mile radius of this site. Please look at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to come up for public comment?
I'm fairly new at this public speaking, but my name is Clayton Hatley. I reside 4754 275th Street, just a couple miles north where this site is being talked about. And a little bit of history real quick. I am a combat infantry vet, and I was employed 1996 to 1998 at the South Dakota State Penitentiary. So I do, as a correctional officer, know the workings. And I was trying to change occupations. And after an attempt on my life in the penitentiary, they call it the solitary housing unit, I decided to change. But the prison is, I can say it's got a lot of dark areas. I worked in Jameson, and compared to Jameson, Jameson is much safer for staff. So I guess you can say I am for new prison for the safety of the staff and the inmates. But at the same time, I didn't appreciate the idea that this was kept from me. Because like you said, I found out when you did. And I'm in direct line of transportation from Sioux Falls to the site. So I believe this here should have been left up to the people. I really believe it should have been up for a vote. And like I said, I'm not used to this public speaking, but I have had the history with working with the penitentiary, and I do agree with a new prison for the safety. But for the area, I think the people should have had to say so.
All right, thank you for your comments, sir. Anyone else wish to come up and speak today?
Good morning. My name is Lauren Vanderveen, and I live on 47511 278th Street, which is right between Highway 115 and Highway 11, which is where the proposed highway, I believe, is going to be. That would be right in front of our house, and our house is a fifth-generation farm. My great-grandparents established that farm site, and it's something that is very, very special to us, our family, the legacy that we wish to carry it on for our children. And when we heard the news of the state penitentiary, I can't even say.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. So, but going in about a mile from our place, and the farm ground around us was a complete shock. We are not in favor of it. We wish the public would have been notified, or that it would go to a vote for the public. We are very concerned about what this would look like for our future, for our children's future, for the city of Harrisburg, the south side of Sioux Falls, the growth area, the livelihood of these cities. I know that the Lincoln County is the 9th fastest growing county in the nation, and what that would do to stifle that, I think that would be just a really big impact on our county. And Harrisburg being the #1 growing city in the state too, I think that would be a really unwise choice for this penitentiary prison to be going in. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Well, I thought you did like public speaking.
I get so nervous that I don't remember everything I wanted
If you
to.
keep it short, sure.
Yeah, real quick. I just wanted to know, is there a way that we could find out what other proposed sites there was?
You know, I don't know the answer to that question.
Because again, that's
But I
where
think
was
we're going to be
talking about.
looking at that, we're going to want to know some of that as well. I wouldn't know exactly where to direct you at this point, and I don't know if any of the other commissioners know. I do not.
Right.
They have looked at a site off of 18, right next to the truck stop, across the road from there. That was, I think they tried to purchase land, but they were unable to come to an agreement on that. And I know there were sites in Minnehaha County, there were sites at several different spots but I have no idea.
And that's again where I come back to where
I don't
the
know.
people should have known that there was other sites and give them the option.
All right, thank you, Clayton.
Thank
Anybody
you.
else want to come up?
Scott Montgomery, Fairview, South Dakota. I think we need to take a good hard look at this and ask ourselves, is there a single benefit for Lincoln County by having this prison here? I don't see one. I think we ought to do everything I can to keep this out of Lincoln County. As I shared with Jim last night, I've traveled through Colorado a number of times. Their prisons are out in the middle of nowhere, where it doesn't affect the residents. They put them out where they're not a danger to the public. And I think we need to strongly ask ourselves why we want to put this closest to the biggest population center in the state. Lincoln County is the fastest growing county in the state, and this is going to stifle our growth, along with the pipeline stifling our growth. We're just cutting our own throats. I hope you stand up and can do everything you can for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Again, Betty Otten, 467-872 73rd Street, NT. I just wanted to clarify something. How do I turn the, is it on the, oh, thank you.
It should focus in there if you just kind of leave it sit for a minute.
Okay.
There you go.
The proposed prison land is right where I've highlighted that, and it's from the latest plat book. And I just wanted to let you know, because I've had calls, and I only want to clarify because I've had calls that one of the commissioners here, along with others, were doing backroom dirty deals to make that land happen. That has never happened. In fact, the commission here's had nothing to do with it. And so what happened is that, in fact, the original landowner died with no heirs. The state had to hold the property in trust for 10 years. And then in 1994, a judge granted the property to school and public lands. This is actually says that it's owned by the state, school, and public lands. So I just wanted to clarify to everybody that there, and maybe people don't know this, but in the past several years, the Supreme Court has already heard stuff on this. 2 South Dakota lawsuits were brought to the Supreme Court for Springfield, and then one for the prison in Rapid City for the women's jail. The Supreme Court ruled in fact in favor of the government, the state, the governor, and the DOC. So basically, it's like they pretty much are going to be able to do what they want to do. So I just wanted to give you that heads up that the commission had nothing to do with backdoor dirty deals. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Anybody else want to come up and speak today?
Linda Montgomery from Fairview, South Dakota. I want to thank everyone who has spoke against the prison. Today I'm here to, Commissioner Poppins got us sparked as far as having a community meeting regarding election integrity. About a month ago, 5 weeks ago, there was a small group of us, concerned citizens for Lincoln County, that were disappointed, of course, that he couldn't follow through with the meeting. I didn't get a chance to email you guys the flyer for this. I will I'll also leave some here. It is Thursday, October 19th at the Military Heritage Alliance, and we are having South Dakota Canvassing give a nonpartisan presentation. Our elections affect everyone, independent, Democrats, Libertarian, Republican. This is going to be a nonpartisan, it's open to public. We hope and pray that you will come and hear hear the history of our voting and elections in this state. Everything will be very pertinent to the state of South Dakota. You know, we might mention, or I'm not the presenter, I've listened to them often enough that, yes, we will be talking about other states also, but all the data about what is presented will come from South Dakota. And I'd really like to see you there, and I invite the public. I'm going to leave some flyers. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to come up for public comment? All right, if not, we'll move on to commissioner reports. Any commissioner reports today?
Yeah, Madam Chair. Thank you. I think we've got our sixth commissioner right there running around this morning. It's doing good. I had an opportunity to drive around the proposed prison location site this weekend. Drove around the section lines, drove past the other homes that are out there. My compliments to whoever the township road grader is, because I think it's 477th was probably one of the better, gravel roads I've seen in a while, or they must have just done the work recently. It was bladed really well. I'm sure that's obviously a concern that the folks who live out there would be the traffic. 477th, I think, is a direct road from Harrisburg down to the purported prison site. And then I think 278th is closed off, right? There's like something, it got washed out or something.
There's a bridge out, yeah.
Yeah, so 278th off of 115 is closed right now. I couldn't go down there. But, it's all gravel roads. There's nothing paved over there. It's just 2 soybean fields that have already been combined. And, it's presents some change, I think. Number one question I've gotten from people is, how did this process work? And like Commissioner Landine said, I found out about the exact location when it came out in the Dakota Scout. That's where I read it. So I think it was no surprise to anybody that it was in Lincoln County was being looked at, northern Minnehaha County was being looked at, just because of the population and where people live and where they're going to have to commute for the workforce issue. So I know there's been a lot of concern out there, but I did go take a look at it. Right now, it's just it's 2 empty cornfields with a lot of gravel, or soybean fields with a lot of gravel roads around it. No infrastructure. I think there's a northern natural gas pipeline has a terminal, or I don't know if you call it a terminal station, probably, what is it, a quarter mile north of there. And then there's pretty big power lines running through there. So I don't know how any of that would work, but, and then Harrisburg is so far declining to extend sewage services to it. So, and then I think under state law, you're no longer allowed to build lagoons. So the prison will have to build a wastewater treatment center site out there for itself unless the state changes state law on lagoon building. So we'll have to see, but thank you.
Well, thank you. Any other reports?
Madam Chair, NACO, at our convention meeting, we were to have a special program put on by Dakota State University on how artificial intelligence were going to affect county government. I have been in contact with Dakota State, and I'm asking that we may have a abbreviated program coming in the very near future, probably even 30 minutes. But it will amaze you as to what artificial intelligence is going to do for county governments and how we use this. It's way above my pay grade to tell you that I totally comprehend that. But I am going to ask them to come down and make that presentation to us. I think that will be extremely interesting for everybody because it affects every facet of county government. I mean, it is really amazing, some of the things that are out there that have potential for changing the way we do things. So that's all, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Gibbon, did you have anything you wanted to say?
No,
All right, Commissioner
I
Poppins?
attended at an economic development meeting last week, along with Commissioner Schmidt, with the city of Sioux Falls and so forth. And so it was educational. I enjoyed it, and definitely there's some things on the horizon in this area. So that's all.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Poppins, anything you wanted to say?
Brief update on the airport. They're working to finalize the apron project that is being done on behalf of Lincoln County taxpayers at the airport. And then a comment concerning the proposed or site for the penitentiary. The residents in that area, as well as all of Lincoln County, we've lived and worked through planning and zoning and what people should and should not be able to expect would happen into an area in which they reside. My contention is that those people specifically in that area would not, for 30-plus years, expect to have any change of use to this extent of the land inside that area. So I am asking that the state, and I'm hoping as we work through it, there's something that we can do that at a minimum minimizes the impact, as well as possibly see if they can change their mind. So that's my comment. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. All right, any need for executive session today? Yes. Any particular section? 1, 3, and 4? Need a motion to go into executive session under SDCL 125-2, sub 1, 3, and 4.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion from Aaron, second from Poppins. Will you call the roll, Kristen?
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon?
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins?
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt?
Yes.
Commissioner Landine?
Yes, thank you. All right, can I get a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Schmidt, second by Aaron's. Kristen, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt?
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins?
Yes.
Commissioner Landine?
Yes, we're adjourned.
No.
We're out of
Oh, we're out of exec. Now a motion to adjourn.
I would
Sorry.
so move.
Second.
Any discussion? Will you call the roll, please?
Public
Commissioner
input.
Aaron's?
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins?
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt?
Yes.
Commissioner Landine?
Yes. Guess it was.